Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Lawrence, and I'm a librarian with LA County Library, and I welcome you to Intro to Photo Editing. I will be your host and presenter for today's event. We're going to take a look at some basic photo editing techniques, what they do, and have a brief demo with a web-based photo editor. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the Q&A or chat, and I will do my best to answer them during our Q&A at the end of the program. For access to more cool programs, books, resources, and more, you can visit lacountylibrary.org or find us on social media, handle at LA County Library, or on Facebook, Twitter, or should I say X now, Instagram, and more at LA County Library. So be sure to check us out there. Okay, and here is our program description. Turn your everyday snapshots into works of art. Learn handy editing functions such as crop and rotate, adjusting exposure, sharpening an image, and adding filters, which can be essential tools for turning an ordinary photo into a masterpiece. Okay, so let's jump right in with a brief history of photo editing. So photo editing has existed since photography was invented pretty much. But throughout much of its history, much of it was physically editing parts of the photo. Digital photo editing is relatively new to the scene, and the first commercial photo editing software came out in about the 1980s, just as personal computers were beginning to gain traction with consumers. Now, in 1987, the first iteration of Adobe Photoshop was released. It was, and arguably remains, the most popular photo editing software available, as evidenced by it being the default descriptive term for photo editing. So if you say you want to Photoshop an image, most people generally know what you're talking about. It's like Xeroxing something or using a Kleenex. The product became the overall, became the general term for the actual action. Nowadays, photo editors are integrated into many smart devices that run on all the major operating systems, including Windows, Android, macOS, iOS, and beyond. And they're capable of many of the functions and features that we're going to talk about today, such as crop, rotate, and adding various filters and effects. So if you have a smartphone, tablet, or PC, you've got the tools to become a proficient photo editor. So you might be wondering, how can photo editing help you besides making the pictures look good, which is a big part of it? Well, you can use them to enhance your social media posts. So if you use any type of social media at all, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, X, or TikTok, then your photos, especially your profile photos, you can enhance those even to look even better using photo editing. Better photos can help increase the chances of people noticing your profile, liking your profile, and following your profile, especially on platforms with a focus on images like Instagram. Also, a professionally edited profile picture can also increase interest for business-related purposes, whether it's for a standout LinkedIn photo or great-looking product photos on your business website. And the most obvious benefit is just to make your photos look better and minimize or remove any undesirable elements like photo bombers in the background. Okay, so for basic photo editing functions, we're going to start off with crop and rotate. So these are two of the most basic yet essential photo editing functions, which can help naturally enhance a photo without layering on any effects. So crop is an essential tool for focusing on the intended subjects of a photo and for removing any unwanted details, as we'll see in just a bit. And also rotate is also great if for whatever reason, when you take the photo, it's not perfectly aligned with the horizon or it's a little bit off, you can align the photo to make it to your desired perspective. Or for some devices, if you took it, if you took the photo and it comes out as just at a right angle or even upside down for some cameras, you can kind of rotate that photo to align it to whatever perspective you want. Oh, right. So let's move on. So how can crop help you out? And I think I'm going to have a little illustrated example here. So let's say it's the holidays. You're taking a group photo and Uncle Ben's been enjoying the food and drink a bit too much. And everybody else is perfectly posed, as you can see. But at the moment you're taking the photo, Uncle Ben's disagreement with his stomach comes to a head right when the photo is taken. And you laugh when you're taking the photo, so you accidentally shift the camera a little off angle. Mayhem breaks out, and any chances of a nice holiday photo are gone as Uncle Ben's holiday feast, is out from his stomach. But is it really gone? Is that chance of a nice holiday photo? It's not gone at all. Don't fret. This is not the end of the world if you want to salvage this photo. So when you open it in your photo editor, right, a quick visit to the rotate or straighten function can help straighten the photo, which helps align the horizon to be more aesthetically pleasing and makes subsequent edits easier. All right. And then after you rotate or straighten out that photo, you turn to the crop function, which allows you to just select a portion of an image and preserve everything within its borders. So naturally, we want everybody else who's smiling and looking nice for the photo. We don't really want Uncle Ben there on the side with his antics. So with a crop function, you can kind of minimize a border to the point where you're preserving everything inside that border, and everything outside is going to get cropped out. It's going to get cut out. So the quick box selection can help preserve this holiday memory sans Uncle Ben. And once that crop is done, the photo will turn into just everything inside that crop border. And there you go. It's a Hallmark-worthy holiday picture that can be safely posted on social media and shared with friends and family. Yeah, sans Uncle Ben. All right, so that's pretty much how crop and rotate and straighten works. Don't worry, at the end, I'll put an actual photo into one of those photo editors and kind of show you how it actually goes. But it's just a nice illustration for you to be able to wrap your mind around how it works. All right, so now we move on to exposure and contrast, which are two complementary settings that deal with the light and dark of an image. So exposure and brightness both deal with the amount of light in an image. However, there are some subtle differences that you should be aware of. So brightness deals with the brightness of the entire image. So if you increase or decrease the brightness, it will apply those changes across every single pixel of the image. So on the image that you see, it's going to apply the brightness evenly across that entire image. Exposure, on the other hand, will only increase the brightness of the highlights or the lighter parts of an image. And exposure will not affect the darker parts of an image. And it will also make details clearer. Use of brightness or exposure can help make details clearer in a photo. Now, the contrast of an image is the degree of difference between the lightest lights and the darkest darks. So increasing contrast will make everything stand out more, while decreasing contrast will have everything blend together more. And if you put, for example, brightness or contrast, if you move that slider all the way to the maximum negative setting, then that will just make everything either gray or black in the photo. There will be nothing that stands out. But let me show you how this can look different. So for exposure and contrast, if I increase exposure and contrast in the image by a moderate amount, so let's say I increase everything by about half to its maximum setting, you can see that the image does pop a bit more details are more visible and seems more vibrant compared with the original. So I'm gonna move back. So as you can see, this is the original image of a night street view. Okay, and then once I increase the brightness and contrast by a significant amount, as you can see, it looks more vibrant. So the lights in the image are more clearly contrasted. Everything seems to pop more. And then if you go back to the original photo, you can see that, the lights are the lights are visible against the dark, but once you increase exposure and contrast, you can see it's a lot brighter, and maybe details on the sign or in the lighter areas, it's more detailed and more noticeable than the original one. However, I want to add that if you increase exposure or brightness too much, the picture might have more noise or fuzziness within its elements. So again, if you increase exposure by too much, the picture may have more noise. So it's kind of like a fuzzy looking effect around a lot of the lighter areas. All right, so now we move on to sharpness and color. So sharpness increases the focus of the image, which can help lend more detail to an unfocused photo. So it helps give photos a crisper, cleaner look and might bring out more detail in an image. Adjusting the colors of an image can help make colors appear brighter. If you increase, say, the saturation on an image, it can really help make the image seem to pop off the screen. And increasing saturation is a popular and easy way to make photos on social media more attractive. So as you can see in this photo, it's been edited for increased sharpness. So as you can see, the detail on the pencil shavings and the pencil's point, it's a lot more clearer. And also the saturation has been increased, which makes the yellows and the yellow and blacks really pop compared with the rest of the photo. All right, so now let's move on to filters and effects. So we move past the basic editing tools that should be present on most photo editors and into the realm of the unique and fantastical. So filters and effects are mostly a mixed bag, as different editors boast features meant to differentiate themselves and attract users. So filters are usually one-click edits, which modifies a bunch of settings at once, including like brightness, contrast, saturation, and a lot of other ones, to name a few. They're really fun to play around, and some do enhance a photo or give it an old-timey or maybe futuristic look. So definitely try them out to see if one fits your images. And you can also add text or other images on top of images as well, which is basically what many internet memes, such as the one shown here, consist of. Sometimes really witty or funny memes become very well known on certain internet circles. But as you can see with this photo, it was a filter placed on a popular Nicolas Cage scene, and then the text was added, and then now this is a pretty well-known meme for people expressing like skepticism or sarcastic skepticism. All right, so now that we've gone over some common editing tools, here are some common editing tips and issues to be aware of. So these tips can help prevent the frustration of suddenly losing all the work you put into editing a photo. So the first tip is to make a copy of the image or photo before you start editing. All right, so if you make a copy, it's very easy to do and will not use up that much space on your device. So you can simply, if you're using a desktop, you can copy and paste. If you're using a smartphone or tablet, there are ways to create copies of the photo as well. And because having a copy will allow you to really unleash your creative potential on an image. without being afraid of accidentally saving those edits and making it permanent with no way of getting the original image back. So especially for unique photos that maybe you just want to play around editing with, but maybe you don't want to have any permanent edits. Make a copy of that photo, whatever photo it is, because if you're satisfied with your edits and you just want to keep the edited one, it's very easy to go back and delete the original just in case. But it's good to have a backup. Next, be sure to save often, especially if you're making more than just a quick edit. If you're doing like a really involved, laborious editing process, and you've been perfecting this photo for close to an hour now, if there's a sudden shutdown from your device, or if there's a sudden electrical failure that causes your desktop to shut down, that can undo your hour of work and have you start all over again. If you save often, that can help preserve the edits that you made on the photo in case of a sudden shutdown, whether it's due to your device's mechanical failure or failure of the electrical grid. And the third tip is to filter in moderation. While maximizing filter edits can lead to dramatically noticeable effects, they might not be the best edits for an image if, for example, it appears over-edited. Like, for example, like I said, for the contrast and the brightness. If you increase those too much, then there might start to become noise, or white fuzz that appears in certain elements of the picture, and that can make it not look desirable as if there were only minor edits or moderate edits to the photo. All right. So again, as with most things, filter in moderation. All right, and to learn more about photo editing, we have a lot of resources in the library catalog. There's a lot of ebooks, regular books, and more, as you can see. There's books that talk about Photoshop elements. There's books that talk about cell phone photography, how to get professional looking images, and also guides to photo editing that are available both as ebooks and as physical books in our catalog. We also have a lot of online learning courses for photo editing that delve deeper into various aspects of photo editing and might give you more exercises to work on. Those are available at lacountylibrary.org/learn and through our online learning platforms, LinkedIn Learning or Gale Courses. Those have a lot of introductory photo editing courses to start off with, and I'd highly recommend those if you want to learn more and get some hands-on experience with photo editing. And of course, there's our library programming, such as our digital literacy programming, like the one you're attending right now, that has more information on photo editing and other digital literacy topics. And I want to show you some additional resources. There are a lot of free photo editors available online that you can just access and use in a web browser, such as like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or Safari. And a couple of them are Pixlr, BeFunky, Canva, and GIMP. The last one, GIMP, you have to download onto your computer as a program, but it's much more involved and professional than the other photo editors. But they're all very usable, and they're all free to use. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to shift over to Pixlr and show you some of the concepts that I talked about in action, editing an actual photo. So make sure to stick around for that. You can also visit our LA County Library Instagram. Oftentimes we have some cool photos and videos that we edit and put on Instagram that you can take a look at if you want some inspiration or just want to take a look at our cool edited photos. Be sure to check us out on Instagram as well. All right, and if you have any questions later on, if you have any questions either about topics in this presentation or about anything at all, feel free to contact our library's reference services that are available: phone, text, email, or instant librarian. Or you can also visit the library, come up to the reference desk and ask a librarian, and they'll be happy to help you out. All right, so now I'm going to move on to Pixlr and show you kind of like, and show you sort of a step-by-step on how to actually use one of these photo editors, these web photo editors, to edit an image. All right, and just so you know, this program is being recorded. If you missed any of this, or you want to go back and look at any part of this program, it will be posted on YouTube in later. So be sure to check out our YouTube playlist as well. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to Pixlr, and I will show you how that works. So just bear with me a second here. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share my screen for my web browser. Okay, so this is Pixlr. Before I show you how to start editing, so to look for Pixlr, I'm just going to do a Google search for that. And it should be the very first result. So Pixlr free online photo editor. But if you do the same thing with BeFunky or Canva or anything like that, it works around generally the same principle. So a lot of these have a free version that has basic edits, and that's the one we'll be using. And they also have some advanced photo editors that you have to pay or subscribe to use. So I'm just going to start with Pixlr X. And once you click on that, it's gonna move to this page. All right. And what they want you to do is you can either start a design, a fresh design, or you can open an image that you upload from your own device and start editing that. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to open image, and then I'm just going to take a look at something easy that will let you see something easy that will actually let you see the edits as they come in. Okay. So it's just this very simple icon. It's got a few colors and it's got a white background. So let's kind of jump right in. So for Pixlr, at least, after you open up an image, okay, everything, your editing options will be on the left-hand corner, or on the left-hand side. All right. And so you can arrange in style, animation, but I'm gonna go through what I covered in the presentation. So let's go to crop and rotate. So here, crop and rotate. All right, so first you're gonna see you can rotate and flip. Okay, so if you rotate left, rotate right, this allows you to rotate the image. And you can also flip the perspective. You can flip it either horizontally or you can flip it vertically. And as with, and then also, if you just want to do a little bit of straightening, there's a straighten tool right here. If you click on this button, you can actually straighten it and rotate it a bit. Especially if the horizon's just off by a little bit, you can use this to rotate it all the way up to 25 degrees on either side. Now, keep in mind that when you rotate it, it will start to cut off more of the image because it can only straighten it within the confines of the image. Okay, so just keep that in mind before you start straightening. Now, and then also, if you want to crop, for most crop functions, there will be sort of a border around the image. And then you can move this border to your desired area. Let's say I only want kind of like a zoomed in view. I only want this part. So after I do that, as you can see, the part within the border is still bright, but everything outside has sort of like a shadow over it. After this is done, and I'm satisfied, this is what I want the photo to be, just everything that's inside the border. I'm going to click apply. And as you can see, everything's cut out except what I wanted in the borders of that square. All right. So that's how you crop something. It's very easy to pick up, but it's a very underrated tool because, sometimes there's elements in the photo that we don't want that, can be distracting. Maybe you just want to focus on a subject. Crop is a great way to do that. Now, for every photo editor, there will be an undo button and maybe sometimes a redo button. But the undo button is your friend. For editing, you should always learn where it is so that, especially if you just want to go back to how it was before, you just click undo once and I'm back to where I am. Especially in photo editing, there's a lot there that, like, sometimes we make edits, we just want to see how it looks, but maybe we don't like how it looks. The undo button is your friend. And so that gets you back to where you were before. Okay, so that's crop and rotate. And then now let's move on to adjust and filter. Okay, and here we see that we can adjust color settings, we can adjust light settings, and also a couple other detail-oriented settings as well, like sharpen or blur. Okay, so first, let's start with color. Okay, so like I said, with saturation, you're gonna make the highlights even more pop, even more colorful than before. So if you take a look at the colors, as I move the saturation slider up to its maximum, you can see if I put it on maximum, the red, yellow, and green look a lot more vivid than it did at the beginning when it's at its basic. And then if you want to make the colors look duller, when you move saturation all the way there, you see everything looks duller. But if you move it to the other scale, everything is a lot more eye-popping. It's a lot more eye-catching. Okay, so that's saturation in a nutshell. All right, and then let's do light. So there's brightness and exposure. So like I said, if you take a look on brightness, it will evenly make everything brighter in this image, okay? And as you can see, if you make it too bright, you get kind of a washed out look. So you don't want to maximize the brightness, okay? But then if you see, I turn the brightness down, everything in the photo gets dimmer, gets darker. All right, but then now let's take a look at how exposure is different. So for exposure, if I turn it up, it affects everything here. It affects the color parts. But if I turn it down, you can see it doesn't really affect the white parts of the picture. It only affects everything that's not white in the picture. So that's how brightness and exposure are different. All right, see, if you turn it down, you can see it's only affecting the non-white parts. But for brightness, it just affects the whole photo, regardless of what color it is. See, everything is getting dimmer. Brightness and exposure, only the colorful parts. All right. And then with contrast, you're going to make everything stand out from each other. So I'm turning this up. You can see everything seems to stand out a lot more than its neighbor. Okay. And then if I turn contrast down all the way, it's just going to turn, there will be no contrast at all. You can't tell the difference between any of the elements in the image. And it's just going to end you up with a gray slab. Okay, so that's how these three are different: brightness, exposure, and contrast. And then now let's take a look at the details. All right, so for sharpening an image, pay close attention to the edges of this image as I increase sharpen. As you can see, it's a lot sharper than before. You can more clearly delineate the edges. And then as I move the sharpen back to its original form, see the edges become a lot more softer and less defined. Again, turn sharpen up, everything becomes more defined and sharper. Turn it down, becomes less. And then also blur, which is the opposite of sharpen, will defocus the image a lot more. So as you can see, I'm increasing the blur, and now, it's not focused at all. Let's return it back to its focus. So there you have it, sharpen and blur, which can help make an image more focused or less focused. Okay, and then now let's go look at effects. So these effects are those preset effects that I talked about. They will automatically edit a lot of different settings. Whether that's exposure, brightness, saturation, contrast, sharpen, what have you. These are preset modifications that you don't really know exactly what it does, but you can just kind of flip through them and see if there's one you like. So this is like the quick and dirty way to get a photo that looks unique or different or nice. All right, so let's go to like the retro preset. You can make it look kind of yellowed. Yeah, there's a lot of different ones, black and white. So you can tune the black and white, can make it sort of more sepia looking. So there's a lot of different filters here that you can use. All right, and last but not least, okay, let's undo all of this so we can get back to our original photo. Okay, so our original photo. I want to talk about adding text to an image. Okay, so for a lot of images, oh, how did it suddenly? Okay, so adding text to an image. So a lot of times you want to add text maybe on the front of an image or somewhere on an image that lets people know, hey, like, like what's going on, or maybe it's describing an event, or maybe you just want to make a meme like that Nicolas Cage one in the presentation. So if you just click add new text, a lot of photo editors also have this add text feature. It's pretty easy to use. Once you click that, a text box appears on the image, and then if you click along the edge of that text box, you can usually reposition it somewhere. And then if you click inside the text box and highlight that text, you can usually type something in there. This is text for an image, and it can be anything you want. But once you're done, you can actually kind of change some of the settings. You can change the size. You can change the size of the text. Let's see, but if you change the size too much, then it might not fit. You can change like the color of the text. So let's say you want to make it to make it black so that it's more noticeable. It stands out more against this background. You can do that. You can change the alignment. You can make it left aligned, center, right. And you can also make it like bold or underlined for emphasis. So it's a lot of the basic text functions that you have. But once you have that, then that's it. Then you can just save this image with the text on it. So if you have an image you like for Pixlr, but for a lot of these photo editors, it's the same. Once you're satisfied with your image, you can always just click save, and then you name it whatever you want. And then you can download it onto your computer. Okay, so you can make it higher quality or lower quality. That affects how good the image looks, but also the file size of the image. And then if you see what you like, if it's okay, then you just click save, and then it will download it to your computer. And that's it. That is how you edit an image using Pixlr, an online web editor. All right, so now let's move on to the Q&A. And let's take a look at the comments. Okay. Let's see. Let's take a look at the Q&A. All right, so first question. What other photo editing courses would you recommend following this session? Okay, so for the photo editing courses, I would recommend our courses on LinkedIn or Gale courses. So let me pull up our web link to our online learning platforms. And now let me post. Okay. Okay, so I just posted the link. Make sure to check out the LinkedIn Learning platform or the Gale Courses platform for introductory photo editing courses. Let's see. Interesting question. Okay, so next question. My question is that when I try to post photos on LinkedIn that were taken by my phone, they always appear grainy or pixelated. Is this the way I'm taking the photo, or do I need an iPhone with a better camera? So if your photo appears grainy or pixelated, it might be because your phone camera might not capture as much detail. So I think it depends on how old your phone is. Usually phones that have been released within the last couple years, they have a pretty good cameras that can take decent looking photos. If your photos in your photo library that you took on your phone do not appear grainy or pixelated, then it might be LinkedIn. Then it might be LinkedIn itself having some problem when you're uploading your photos. If that happens, then I would just try posting your photos from another device. Like say you log onto your laptop or desktop computer and try to post a photo to LinkedIn through there, and then see if that works. Okay. All right. Next question. Let's see. I want to know how to combine various photos and text. I also crop photos and need to compress them. Thanks. Okay, so so we did cover how to combine photos and text, and also how to crop photos. For compressing photos, that's that's a little beyond the scope of this program, but I'll make a note of that, and I will include that in our follow-up email, how to compress photos. So next question. How do you eliminate background distraction, like light reflections, unsightly objects, etc.? Is there an app for this? Also, when transferring a photo image to a folder, I cannot see the picture image, but a generic icon instead. All right, so for the second part of the question, when you're transferring a photo image to a folder, and you cannot see the picture image, but a generic icon instead, it might be down to your folder settings. So in Windows Explorer, you can have it display a preview of the for the icons, or just a generic icon. So that may be the case. And also, when you're transferring the photo image, if it's a different file format, if it's a different picture format than the normal ones like JPEG or PNG, if it's a different one like HEIC, or maybe something even more complex, a RAW file, then it might not display in your Windows Explorer or your Mac Explorer. Okay, so it could be any number of things. Now, to eliminate background distraction like light reflections, unsightly objects, etc., for many photo editors, there's usually an auto adjust option that might take care of any blemishes on a photo. And there's also usually like photo tools where you can sort of eliminate like blemishes and things like that. However, that's slightly more complicated than introductory course. But I will make a note of that and include that in the follow-up email that you will all receive as well. Eliminate background distraction. Okay, yeah, and just to remind everybody, you will all be receiving a follow-up email with the slides that I presented today, and also a link to our next digital literacy program, and also a link to our YouTube upload as well. Okay, so if you want to review any part of this presentation, you'll receive an email with all that information in the near future. Next question. How do you access crop and rotate pictures on your device? So again, I can only answer in general terms for much of this because photo editors are different on each and every device. Whether you're using an Android device, if you're using a Windows device, or a Mac OS or iOS device, their interfaces are a little different from each other. So it's harder to explain, but usually crop and rotate functions, those crop especially, it's represented by like a little box, that you can tap on for a lot of photo editors. And then once that crop function is accessed, it will have an additional frame around the edges of your photo that you can then manipulate to wherever you would like. Okay. If you're not entirely sure and would like some visual help, you can always go on Google or on YouTube and just type in how to crop and rotate on, and then your device. So for example, how to crop and rotate on an iPhone 14, or how to crop and rotate on a Windows PC. Usually there will be tutorials and step-by-step instructions that you can access on YouTube or on Google. Since this is being recorded, will I be able to view the parts I missed later? Definitely. You'll be receiving an email with a YouTube link, and then you can browse to your heart's content. Next question. Where are the undo and the apply buttons? Not possible to see where you were clicking. Thanks. Okay. They were near the bottom of the screen for Pixlr. But if you'd like to take a look, I'm not sure why Zoom didn't show the whole browser function, but let me share the screen and I'll show you exactly where. All right, so this is the Pixlr interface, and if you take a look near the bottom, so see there's the undo and redo buttons, and then let's say you're doing crop and rotate. As you can see near the bottom, you can apply or cancel. So apply applies this crop function. Let's say I want to crop it to that big. I'm going to click apply. It's near the bottom. And then if I want to undo that crop, it's near the bottom. I'm going to click undo, and that's how it works. Okay. So that is where the undo and the apply buttons are. Okay, next question. How to lay a cropped image on top of another image, or cut and paste on part of an image. Example, replace Uncle Ben with a better-looking image of Uncle Ben, or to replace the drunken Uncle Ben. Okay, so that is a very good question, and that has something to do with layers. So layers is a bit more advanced than intro to photo editing, but I will also include links to how layers work on the follow-up email. But then again, uh, you can also search, for example, YouTube, how to work with layers on a photo editor. Okay, but for the cropped image on top of another image, I'll include a link to that in the follow-up email. All right, next question. What is the best way to make a photo album with text and pictures? See, like, is there something specific you want to do with a photo album? Because usually if you have an electronic photo album, if you just put all the photos into one folder, then that's pretty much a photo album. Because if you open it, if you open one of those photos, you can generally just scroll through the entire album just by using, for example, the arrow keys, if they're all in the same folder. So if you were making like a photo album with text on the pictures, then you would need to go to every picture to add some text. However, I know that for various photo editors or photo apps, like for example, the photo app on your iPhone, you can definitely, they have specific features to select photos and then like add some text, and then they'll auto generate a photo album for you. So without knowing what device you have and what program you're using, what app you're using, it's very hard to say. But again, if you know that information, you can also input that into, for example, YouTube or Google, and they'll tell you how to use a built-in photo album feature if one exists for your app. Okay, next question. Once you save an image, can you re-edit? Well, so again, that depends on the photo editing app that you're using. So for many of these photo editing images, especially if you're using like the default one, the Windows Photo Viewer, or the Mac one, for example, once you crop an image and you save it, then you cannot undo that afterwards. Now, for other ones, like for example, Pixlr, they might have that. They might have the option where after you save an image, but you want to go back, you can still do it. But again, it really depends on the app you're using. If you're not sure, if you're not too sure about an image, you can always just make a copy of that image, okay? And then just edit one of the copies. And that way, if anything happens, you still have the original image to fall back on. I do that if I'm editing my photos because, again, I'm not sure if the device will suddenly, cut off, or if I accidentally hit save, and then now I can't go back to the way it was. And that wouldn't be ideal, okay? But if you're asking if you can edit an already edited image, yes, you definitely can. So let's say you cropped a photo and you put on some filters and you save that. You can reopen that in your editing application and put on further edits to that image. So if that's what you were asking, yes, you can edit an already edited image. Next question. I assume you're asking about the Pixlr cutout backgrounds. Any of these cutout backgrounds for free? Um, I think it depends on Pixlr. I think they have like one or two for free, but I think cutout backgrounds is like more of a premium feature that you would need to that you would need to subscribe or pay for the advanced Pixlr editor to use. Next question. How much memory do you need on a PC for this type of software? Well, I think if you're using sort of a basic photo editor like Windows Photo Editor, Windows, Microsoft Paint, Microsoft Paint 3D, or if you're just using the generic Mac editor, you don't need much at all because they just do very simple edits. However, and also for the ones like Pixlr or BeFunky or Canva, the ones that you can access on your web browser, you don't need much memory at all. Basic PCs can handle it, no problem, because it's mostly just run through the web browser, whether it's the Google Chrome or Safari. If you can run that, you can probably run a web photo editor, no problem. However, if you're using more advanced software, like Photoshop, for example, those programs will need more processing power and graphical power and graphics power on your PC to run that, for example, Photoshop. Especially if you're doing large scale, very detailed edits, yeah, you would need a more powerful PC or Mac to do this type of editing. But if you're just using like normal quick edits, it's fine. Most PCs can handle it. Next question, how to cut out an image of one subject and paste on a blank background. Okay, so again, that's working with layers. I'll include a link to how to work with layers in the follow-up email. It's a little too in-depth to answer at this time. Okay, next question. Would you recommend Pixlr or another service over using something like the editing functions on Google Photos for those of us who have our photos on that platform? Well, if you're just doing normal edits, like you're just doing cropping, rotating, maybe just adjusting the brightness, contrast, etc. If Google Photos, if their editing functions have what you need, then I just recommend you stick with that. It keeps things simple and it keeps things on the platform. But if you want to do more complicated edits that, for example, Google doesn't have, then definitely I'd recommend to make use of like Pixlr or BeFunky or Canva. I've used all three. They're good photo editors. So their interfaces work. The only thing is you would have to upload your photo to that service to use. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying that they're gonna archive and catalog all the photos that people upload onto them. But again, you're uploading it to another platform. So if you can do all your edits on a platform that you're already using, like Google Photos or Photos on your iPhone, and if you can use that to edit your photos, yeah, I'd recommend just sticking with what you already got. Next question. Are there courses on how to add music to your photos so you can post them onto Instagram, Facebook, etc.? That's an interesting question. So if you're adding music to your photos, so that's kind of like creating a video where it's just the photo, but then the audio track is different. I would definitely assume that there are courses on how to do that. But for this very specific feature, again, I would recommend just maybe posting that on YouTube and seeing what comes up. I'm sure there are a lot of tutorials on how to add music to photos, and then to be able to post on social media. So definitely give that a check as well. If you want like a more formal course, again, take a look at LinkedIn Learning or Gale courses for like the photo editing courses. But you'd probably find your answer much quicker just like on YouTube. Let's see, next question. I did not see how you got to the page you were reviewing. I went to the site and the page had more icons different than what you showed us. The program looks like Paint and PowerPoint. If you're referencing the Pixlr photo editor, let me just post a link to that on in the chat so that you can go directly to Pixlr. And yes, it does look a lot like Paint and various aspects of PowerPoint. So yeah, let me just post that link to Pixlr. Okay, so that's a link to the Pixlr X photo editor that I just posted. Next question. Is there a tutorial on Canva on how to use it? Yes, there definitely is. All right, so I just posted the link to Canva's tutorials. Next question. Do the public libraries have Photoshop on their computers that we can use? So for LA County Library, we do not have Photoshop on our computers. We do have Microsoft Paint. So for basic photo editing, you could definitely do that. For Photoshop, if you're looking for publicly accessible ones, you might want to check with like your local colleges or universities to see if they have public access computers with Photoshop. Now, what I want to add, however, is that one of the links to photo editors that I posted for GIMP, G-I-M-P, that is a free program that you can download, but it also has as much functionality as Photoshop. So that's a very detailed program that can edit photos using some of the tips and tricks that Photoshop does. So let me post that as a free alternative to Photoshop. Let's see, next question. Do you know if laptops have embedded photo editing programs? Yes, they do. So for Windows laptops, they have Microsoft Paint and Microsoft Paint 3D. Those can perform basic edits on photos. And also for Windows like Photo Viewer, those can perform basic edits as well. So for example, on Windows Photo Viewer, you can crop the image, you can rotate the image, and you can adjust certain settings like their brightness or contrast and things like that as well. So and the same for Macs as well. On the Photos app, if you're on your Mac or your iPhone or even your Android tablet, your basic Photos app can perform the basic edits like crop, rotate, and basic filters. So they do have those. There are a few free apps that you can download and use, or you can also use the web photo editors as well. Next question. Would you show how to edit for video? We will do introduction to video editing next month after our organizing your email program. So be on the lookout for that. It should be on the last Thursday of August. So just be on the lookout for that. We'll definitely promote that during our next digital literacy program. Okay, next question. How do you recommend I create a digital photo from an actual photograph? Let's say from archival family photos, and then I can edit them. Okay, so to digitize your actual photographs, you can do that you can do that in a couple of ways. So the first way is if you have a scanner, Like if you have one of those copier or scanner machines, you can scan the photos into a digital format. All right, so that's one way to do it. Another way is to use a Google app. I believe it's called PhotoScan. And yeah, there we go. PhotoScan Scanner by Google Photos. And this app you can use on devices that have a camera. So for example, like your smartphone or your tablet. Okay, so Google Photo Scan. And Google Photo Scan will have you take multiple photos of your actual photograph from different angles. And then it will attempt to blend them all together into one good picture. Because oftentimes, if your photos are glossy, they reflect light. So if you just take it from one angle, it might not be ideal. So PhotoScan will let you kind of take multiple pictures of the same picture and then combine that all together to have something that's hopefully glare-free. All right, next question. Will you guys be doing any more advanced webinars? I hope so. So for next month, it'll be organizing your email and intro to video editing. Hopefully, after that, we can have some advanced webinars that touch on photo editing or video editing. So for your feedback, please just fill out our survey and let us know what Zoom screen ratio to see the bottom of the presenter's screen. Oh, okay, yeah. So this comment was in response to the earlier question that said they couldn't see the undo, redo buttons or the apply buttons on the bottom of the Pixlr interface. So yeah, probably need to change the zoom screen ratio. Next question. I was recently asked to make a slideshow for a wedding. Is there a program you would recommend? PowerPoint? So I think if it's just a normal slideshow and you just want to have pictures and you're familiar with PowerPoint, can't really go wrong with that because that's almost guaranteed to be compatible with any Windows PC. So yeah, I think PowerPoint is fine if what you need is just like, images maybe set to music or something like that. And also what else you can do for the slideshow for the wedding, you can also take those images, edit them with a more advanced photo editor beforehand, and then afterwards just put all those images onto slides for PowerPoint. That also works. Oh, here's a good comment. Adobe Express has free background removal. So for the question earlier that wanted to know how to do background removal for certain images, looks like Adobe Express has free background removal. So might want to check that out. Next question. Does the library have a program where one can borrow Photoshop? If not, perhaps the future. We do not have a program currently that can let people borrow Photoshop. I do not know if they're going to have that in the future, but that would be a good program to have, and I imagine a lot of people would be interested in that. So maybe I'll send that on to people who make those kinds of policy decisions. Okay, so next question. GIMP does more than others. How so? So GIMP was the was the photo editing program that I posted a link to earlier. And it does more than your basic photo editors, like for example, the Windows photo editor or the iPhone photo editor. And I believe it does more. It's more in depth than the web photo editors that I covered earlier, like Pixlr, BeFunky, or Canva. And that's because it's a standalone program that you download and you install on your computer. It does, there's more features and functions, more functionality. However, GIMP is more complicated to learn. Okay, so again, there's a lot of tutorials and documentation online that you can use, but GIMP is a lot more involved than, let's say, Pixlr or your Windows photo editor. So it's definitely more advanced, but it's worth checking out if you want to make specific advanced edits to your photos. Okay, so now I'm through the Q&A. Now let me just take a look through the chat and see what questions or comments we have there. But if you have any more questions, now is the time. And also let me post a link to our post-event survey. We always appreciate you filling that out. We like your feedback and comments, and those give us more ideas for subsequent programs. So I just posted our survey there. Takes about a minute. It's very short, and we do appreciate your comments. And also let me post a link to our YouTube channel for a digital literacy playlist, where you can find all of our previous digital literacy programs, and where you can very soon find this program as well, in case you want to review this program or go over what we did already. All right, and then also, can we get these links emailed to us? Sure, I will include these links in the follow-up email. Okay. Next question, let's see. Oh, here's a good question in the comments. Would the edits lower the pixels of the photo, i.e. unable to print an enlarged photo? So if you crop a photo, you will definitely be lowering the pixels of the photo, because you're literally just cutting out a part of it. You can also resize a photo. That's a little more advanced, but you can make the photo a lower resolution, which will also cut off the photo. Okay, but edits will definitely, if you crop, will definitely lower the amount of pixels in a photo file. Next question, can't copy and paste on my calendar. Could you send this and the recording to us? So yes, you will receive a follow-up email. It will include the slides I used. It will include a link to the YouTube upload of this recording, and also links that I covered here, as well as the registration link for our next upcoming digital literacy program. All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your comments on the class being awesome. If there aren't any other questions, thank you so much for attending. And I hope to see you in the next digital literacy program.